that. So also the AGD approach to think out of the box is shown by the presenters of this session. So the first presenter is Kai Grunenberg, and he is elektronische Vernetzung von Leistungserbringern. I mentioned this wording because it's a typical German wording showing the close relationship to the de facto governmental institutions. There is obviously a translation of that, but we would like to see his talk. The ITSG was founded in 1996 and provides information technology services to the governmental statutory health insurance. So please, Kai, can you open your screen and share your presentation with us and start your presentation, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Udo, for the introduction. I hope you can hear me well.
Very good.
Okay. As you mentioned before, ITSG, yes, a security of high volume data transfer and storage in German health networks. My name is Kai Grunenberg, and I translated this typical German word into head of electronic networking of healthcare providers. And ITSG means Information Technology Service Center of Statutory Health Insurance. You also mentioned, let's step in the next slide, that ITSG is founded in 1996 as a working group of statutory health insurance companies. One of, on top of the list of our stakeholders is the National Association of Statutory Health Insurance Funds. And second is the AOK Federal Organization. This organization combines 11 big health insurances in Germany. And our focus of business is clear in-house business. Let's describe it like this. That means business with our stakeholders or health insurances at all. Our headquarters is next to Frankfurt in Heusenstamm, and we have beginning growing office in Berlin. Since the very beginning, Harald Flex is our managing director, and he also founded that company in 1996. By now, ITSG, which is a increasing company, very fast increasing company, we have 165 FTEs on November 1st this year. And our annual turnover is nearly 30 million in the fiscal year 2019. Mass data exchange procedures only work if clear rules are laid down for the communication procedures and for the structure of content of the user data. Rules are also necessary for the protection of the data transport, for the identification of the participants and the software that is used in this context. And in some part, it is also necessary to have clear rules for the used hardware in that environment. What are the typical rules for this, or examples for this are the data electronic highway itself, which is in our cases mostly the internet. Regulation is also a very important rule. So we have numerous laws, regulation and decrees, technical guidelines and circular outlinings that give us the regulation for this electronic data highway. And it's also really necessary to have identical interfaces in designs to exit and access those data highways. And on the data highway, we have to have the transporter. We describe this as a clear and uniform communication procedure. And those transporters transport the data containers to process the specific data content for every project that we are running. And it's also really one of the most important points, maybe the protections. Establish uniform safety procedures for the encryption and authentication signatures. And the identification is one of the important rules in this area. Certificates, public, private directories, a similar product and version numbers. This gives us the experience of multiple projects in this area. And also it is really necessary, the registration. You need to provide license based on software and product to be part of the data exchange. Only if you are registered, you can be part of our data exchange setups. Our fields of activity can be divided into 3 areas. The electronic data exchange is the basis of the digitalization of the health and social insurance sector. Basically, this can be divided into 3 areas. The exchange of data with employers, service providers, and other business partners. In the next 2 slides, we only show an excerpt of those employer procedures. And the second and increasing part, it is the digitalization of the German IT health system. This is one of the main topics in the politics currently, and it is maybe the driver for your businesses as well in this talk or in this conference. And then we are stepping into the European data exchange of social security data. ITSG started, as mentioned before, in 1996. Data exchange was different to the data exchange today. We were using magnetical disks and tapes to transport data from A to B and C. Since 2006, it's mandatory by law that social security reports have to be exchanged between all participants via electronic interchange. There are employees and their service providers at one side and the data processing organizations of the healthcare system and German social security system at the other side. So an example for the service provider on the employer side is a company who is called DATEV. It's a clear German company as well. And this company handles 1.5 million employers and tax advisors. This is one of our clients within this data exchange. For the interchange functionality, ITSG develops and operates different communication servers. In most of the projects, ITSG develops their own software and uses this own software. But in other projects, I will describe this later on, we also handle and operate software that is delivered from our partners. In some cases, ITSG also handles anonymized and pseudonymized data that is merged and processed for statistics. We only do this on basis from our stakeholders. I have a picture from one of my colleagues. I put this into this talk yesterday evening, and because it is, in some cases, it is clear German. Excuse this, please. But it demonstrates the complexity of the multiple communication relationship. So you can see that ITSG, yeah, here's my pointer. You can see that ITSG takes place in all of these parts, and as well in those areas where manufacturers using software from their manufacturers. We are a consultant for those manufacturers, software manufacturers. And we run all these communication streams that you can see in this picture. So some figures about this area. ITSG is the operator, as I mentioned, of the central communication server, and all the data is routed encrypted between the participants shown before. Additionally, ITSG operates since 1996 the Trust Center that provides certificates for the authentication and encryption of all communication partners in that area. What does, talking about some more figures, encrypted data exchange means more than 3.5 million employers, and 35 million employees in that area, and more than 150,000 communication partners. In combination, that means more than 300 million social security notifications. And all this is based on common convention and technical principles. Transportation is also mentioned before, mainly via internet. And all this exchange is done via software-based connections. And talking about security, you can see this in the last topic of this slide. The next area we are starting more and more our activities is the German healthcare system, and especially here the German IT healthcare system. In this healthcare system in Germany, general practitioners or hospitals and pharmacists are participants, medical specialists, dentists, physiotherapists, the patient itself, health insurance companies and associations of statutory health insurance physicians. That means, in figures, 150 statutory private health insurance companies, statutory and private insurance companies, and 90%, it's about 70 million statutory people are insured statutory insurances. So we have 2,000 hospitals and 21,000 pharmacies, 270,000 GPs, medical specialists and dentists, and 2.3 million other health professionals are part of this network. 80.2 million people are part of this in Germany. So you can imagine this is a big IT network that becomes more and more digital in the next future. Interoperability based on telematic infrastructure. This is the network that ramps up currently in Germany that connects all these participants demonstrated or shown before. And we have those, we call it killer applications in this network. And one of this is the electronic patient record, which is starting or is going online, the go live. We have this go live in the 1st of January 1921. So, and the next in the middle of 21 next year is the electronic prescription. This is the biggest IT health care project in Germany currently, the electronic patient record. Specifications for this telematic infrastructure and the killer applications are given by the central organization Gematik, which is mostly owned by the Ministry of Health. Based on common conventions, all these specifications are done on common conventions and technical principles. So, for example, IHE or FHIR and others. The telematic infrastructure is a closed network. You can only take place or be part of this network if you are one of the clients of the health system in Germany. Connection to the TE, the telematic infrastructure, is hardware-based. So every software or hardware that is used in that network has to be registered, tested, and approved by Gematik itself. And in addition, you have to have a security certificate by an independent auditor. This is also necessary. For the electronic patient record, we are the operator of the electronic patient record. ITSG is the operator of the electronic patient record for the AOK, and sorry for that German title in here. For the AOK in Germany, that means nearly 27 insured, 27 million statutorily insured people can set up their electronic patient record in our data centers. We set up this start environment in 2 data centers in Germany, so redundant. And with these hardware stacks that builds a private cloud system for this electronic patient record AOK. So these blue ones are the connection to the AOK network. That is the stack that connects to the AOK network and their data environments. And these three stacks need to be set up by the Gematic. So you need to test all this environment in this RU unit with all the other participants in this area. You have to test and get their certificates on the test unit. And finally, you have to run it on the PU production unit in both data centers. The connection from the people, from the customer, the client, is done via this virtual application environment. So this is an Intel-based connectivity that is currently only set up on smartphone application in the starting area, and the electronic patient record itself, it's only available during the runtime of the session on your devices. And everything is stored in secure files in this storage and computed by these compute blocks in our data centers. And as mentioned before, you have to have a redundant connection into the telematic infrastructure that is also strictly regulated by Gematics. And finally, let's talk a little bit about electronic exchange of social security on international basis. So there is a project that is called ESSE. It is a project of the European Union. In future, this project connects up to 15,000 institutions and about 100,000 users in 32 countries. They have to be connected via local access points in these countries. ITSG operates the German access point, and within Germany, we are connecting all the health insurances via a gateway that is also developed by ITSG itself. The basis for this European communication is the TESTA network, Trans-European Services for Telematics between administrations. So that is another closed, strictly closed network where ITSG had to connect to. This network is established for organizations of administration in Europe. So this project is set up by European rules and social security connections, as I mentioned before, for 32 European and EFTA countries, and communication between national institutions on cross-border social security files. Social security institutions exchange structured electronic documents and follow commonly agreed procedures. This project started productive, or the go live started in November 2019 and increases quickly. So in 2020, we already had more than 980, so nearly 1 million electronic messages that received from across Europe. And yeah, ITSG operates that infrastructure, including access points, gateway to the linked health insurances and organizations. So this is also the end of my talk today, and maybe you have some questions. I'm very happy to receive this.
Okay, thank you, Kai, for this interesting talk. What comes up to my mind is, you know, I'm looking to that from a different angle. I'm looking from the perspective of universities working together, and we have seen or heard yesterday that there are more and more cooperations going on where a number of universities in different places are exchanging data. What would your advice how they can benefit from the work on data security the ITSG has done in the past?
I would say, so my advice would be coming back to those rules. So setting up common rules and following those rules to be connected into one of those networks. So communication based on clear strategies, clear procedures, and certificates, and also yeah, this might be the first step into communication between those clients.
Mm-hmm. You know, up to now, I would bet that more than 90% of the audience didn't know before the talk what ITSG means and how important this company is for the healthcare network in Germany, because it's running. Nearly everybody has had contacts with your services or products, which is more or less invisible. How can people come into contact, and are there possibilities that you help regards questions depending on the need of the clarification how to secure outside data networks?
Yeah, what you mentioned, Udo, that happens to me as well. So I joined ITSG 2 years ago, and I was working for a software company called Microsoft, and in healthcare area, and I was not aware of ITSG before. So you're right, ITSG is one of the important companies in communication between associations in German healthcare. That's true, yeah. So we are very open to talk and to have workshops to find out maybe we can help with our private cloud setups that could help in your area. So we are open to set up workshops and talk with our specialists and your specialists about those topics.